Hi everyone, welcome to my channel. My name is Urvi Sharma. I'm a final year MBBS student at Maulana Azad Medical College, New Delhi. And today we are going to talk to Dr. Toshali Pandey, a senior of mine and an alumnus of Maulana Azad Medical College, New Delhi. She's presently working towards getting into residency in the United States after completing her MBBS, graduating in April 2022. She has always been a very bright student throughout her career, scoring top positions in all examinations she appeared for. She took her USMLE Step 1 before it was changed into a pass-fail only format and scored a brilliant 262. She appeared for Step 2 during her internship, and she again proved her mettle by scoring a whopping 273 despite her very hectic internship schedule. So today we're going to discuss with her how a medical student can excel in the USMLE Step 2 exam. I'm very grateful to Dr. Toshali for sparing her valuable time, and I'm sure this interaction with her will prove to be of immense benefit to all future aspirants. So before starting the question and answer session, I would request Dr. Toshali to introduce herself, sharing some more information about herself so that our viewers can get to know her better. Ma'am.
Hi everyone, I'm Toshali, and that was a lot of praise. And thanks for having me on your channel. I'm so excited to be started. So I'm from MAMC, as Urvish mentioned, and I'm currently in the process of beginning my interviews for the internal medicine residency match. So I like studying for exams. I like giving exams. I'm also currently preparing for Step 3, so you could call me a giver exam. So I hope I live up to that reputation.
Okay, ma'am, you were just being humble. So now let's start with the first question.
Yeah.
How much time roughly did you take to prepare for Step 2? Because I understand it must have been very difficult to find time in between the hectic internship schedule. So roughly how many days did you take to prepare for the exam, and how many hours did you study daily on an average?
Yeah, so I did most of my Step 2 preparation during internship, and it took me about 11 months, in all honesty. What helped me though was the fact that I was sure I wanted to prepare only for Step 2 and not Indian PG prep. I spent all of my time for Step 2. So I would say it's not actually that hard. Uh, People have been preparing for both Indian PG as well as doing their internship simultaneously. So if it's just one exam that you're preparing at the end of internship, it's not that hard, in my opinion. As far as the time I spent preparing every day, I would say that I did roughly one block every 2 days. So that took about an hour, and another 2 hours, I'd say, to review it properly. Yeah, so 3 hours every 2 days, I would say. That's my average. That's why it took 11 months. You could definitely do it in shorter time.
Okay, so it must have been easier during some less hectic internship postings than during the hectic ones.
Exactly. I would say PSM was my most productive time and medicine was my least productive time. And as we'll come to it, there are some resources that you can use more during your hectic postings and some during your less ones.
Okay. So as you mentioned that if you're preparing for one exam, it is easier and you focused on Step 2 solely, but give us some perspective about how different Step 2 preparation is from Indian PG preparation, and can someone work on both simultaneously, although I don't think that's a very good idea, but is that possible, and how different it is from Indian PG?
Yes, that's a very good question. I get asked that a lot. I would say that if you're not clear about either one pathway, yes, you could prepare for both exams. However, you must be aware that this might affect your performance in both of them. Step 2 is definitely quite different from Indian PG in the sense that even though the base syllabus is same, there is lots of biostats, ethics, legal sciences, and even a focus on step-by-step management that is not really a part of Indian PG exams, I think. And with Indian PG exams, of course, you have so much PSM and lots of stuff that's only relevant to India. So there is definitely difference. And if you would ask me and you wanted to prepare for both of them simultaneously during internship, you could do that, but I'd say keep at least 2 or 3 months gap between both exams. So you have enough time to do those special subjects, to those special topics. Yeah.
Alright. How different was step two from step one? What was the amount of labor required in comparison to step one? And since you had scored very good marks in step one, did it help in your preparations for step two, or was it a different game altogether?
Right. I won't call it labor. It isn't really labor studying for these exams. I'd say Uworld is an excellent resource for both exams. However, I'd say step one was more similar to step two earlier. Now that it's pass or fail, you need to go into step one with a different mindset as compared to step two. So if you're a student who's already given their step one and gotten great scores, it's going to help you a lot with step two. You have a good base knowledge. However, there's a lot of new stuff that comes in with step two. And that's why you still need to go through your entire Uworld in order to be prepared for step two well. The good thing about step two is that other than Uworld, there aren't a lot of resources that you need to go through. If you're a student who has given their step one or is planning to give their step one now that it's pass or fail, I'd say that now you would have to put in more effort into step two as compared to your step one exam, because scores really matter with step two, especially since it's not since your step one is just pass fail. So the difference is there, and you would have to go through the whole of Uworld in order to excel well in your step two. That's what I'd say.
Now, coming to your step two preparation, did you start preparing for step two right after step one, or was there some gap? And how did that gap impact your preparation?
Right. So I gave my step one in my third year around September, and my step two right at the end of internship. So there was almost quite a lot of gap between both exams. I'd say that I started my dedicated preparation during internship, but I spent my final year studying my final year subjects well, knowing that this is what's going to help me for step two. I recommend the same to every student who knows that they're going to give step two. Do your subjects well. It does help. You would have to go through Uworld in any case, but having done your subjects well will save you a lot of time. Yeah.
Another question that a lot of people have on their minds is, can you give step two before step one? And what is the most appropriate time to take the step two for MBBS student?
Right. I would recommend giving your step one before step two. Firstly, step one opens up so many doors with respect to electives. It's pass and fail now. You don't need to worry about scores. Just get it over with as soon as possible. Maybe third year would be a great time for most people. You can definitely give step two before your step one. However, you need to get good scores with your step two examinations, and it tends to take a lot of time. I had to personally postpone my step two exam with internship because some unexpected stuff came up. So postponing your step two is a real possibility, which would postpone your step one. And yes, there's no real advantage in having your step one after your step two. Yeah.
What is the most appropriate time to take step two?
Well, if you gave your step one in third year, I'd say you could give it your final year examinations if you're really thorough during your final year. But now that it's a part of the curriculum, the next exam is coming in, I'd say you could easily spend your final year doing preparation for your next exam, and then spending your internship doing preparation for your step two exam, and then taking it then. But like I mentioned before, it's possible to prepare for both simultaneously. Just keep a 2 or 3 month gap between both of them.
There's some news now that next won't actually happen for the 2018 batch. So, but there's no surety. So
yeah, not surprising. So I would say that you could give it at the end of final year, but yes, it's all right if it takes you internship as well. And internship is going to be unpredictable. So yes, so with internship, there's an element of unpredictability that you're going to have to learn how to manage, but that's a great time. Try to give it before graduation so that after graduation, you have time for other things. Yeah.
Now, the most burning question, since step one is pass fail only, it seems that step two has become even more important for selection. So what is your take on this? Some of the candidates would have step one scores, and some would come without a step one score, just a pass step one. So how would that factor into the match process?
Yes, that's a burning question, isn't it? So I would say that step one, becoming pass and fail, should not worry anyone. It's done. It's nothing we can change. So let's just adapt to it. For next year's match, particularly, I'd say step one would no longer be a filter. What this means that programs won't automatically qualify you or disqualify you from interview invites simply based on your step one scores, right? Because not everyone has them. But having a step one score, a good step one score would come in handy later on in the selection process. There are multiple steps to selection. Even before interview invites, definitely having good step one scores would help. But yeah, it won't be a filter anymore. And step two, like you said, is going to be much more important.
Now coming to the preparation part, what were the main resources that you relied upon during the preparation? And it would be really helpful if you could delineate your strategy for the preparation of step two.
Okay, so number one was Uworld, number two was Uworld, number three was Uworld. But just kidding. So Uworld is really important. You need to finish Uworld in time. So that's about 100 blocks. You can calculate accordingly. It takes about an hour to complete each block. And if you are reviewing each block well, it takes another additional 1.5 to 2 hours. But with time, as you get experience, you can start finishing blocks in 40 minutes and finishing off reviews in 1 hour or even less. So that's Uworld. The other resource that I used was Anki, because with Uworld, I realized there's lots of new information. There's lots of management algorithms that I cannot find anywhere else. Do I write notes? How many notes do I make? When do I revise them? So Anki sort of filled in that gap for me. With Anki, I could carry it to my postings as well every time I was free, especially during pandemic when I had no patients in some of my postings. I just sat there with my laptop in the ward itself, finishing off Anki flashcards. So I think Anki is very good in helping you remember what all you did in Uworld. So you really need something like Anki. It may be making notes, but I think notes are tough. So either notes or Anki to supplement your Uworld. The third thing that I used was the Amboss library. I think it was really good with topics that weren't explained well in Uworld, that were just mentioned about, or with sometimes you need to understand the entire management process, of which only a small part has been asked in a question. So with that, Amboss really helped me. It has very succinct information and it's very updated. That's something you won't find in your books that you're reading. So that kind of updated information is actually asked in exams. And I think Amboss was great for that. But at the same time, Amboss out of these three is optional. You could find updated information on the net. Even Uworld has references. Yeah, those are my three main resources.
All right. So as you mentioned, Anki, did you make your own cards or did you use some pre-made decks from the internet?
Yes, that's a great question. So I did a mixture of both. I downloaded several pre-made decks, but I did not unsuspend all of those cards. What this means that my Anki collection actually had 25,000 cards, but only when I found a question that I got wrong or a topic that was new, I searched for it, browsed it in my deck. If I found a card that fit, I unsuspended it. So I'd say half of the cards that were actually part of my review were from these pre-made decks. The other half, I made them myself because there was information that was just not available in these cards. So in the end, I had only 3,500 cards that I was actually reviewing.
Now, as you mentioned, Uworld as the single most important resource. So do you think it is by itself sufficient for a good score, or you really need Anki or Amboss or any other resources as well?
That's actually a great question. Uworld in itself would get you good scores. I'd say maybe 250s or 260s, which is enough to get through most filters. But if you really want to add to your existing knowledge base, if say you're averaging 75% or 70%, or if you start to realize that you're getting questions wrong that you've already seen, topics that you've already read, if you realize you're not able to grasp all of that simply on one question, then you need something else to help you remember that. And instead, I recommend, instead of going through Uworld over and over again, having something like flashcards would be a better idea.
Okay. So how many passes of UWorld do you recommend? Just
Yeah.
a single pass or more than one pass?
I could honestly just do one pass, but that's also because, like I mentioned, I was spending 2 hours to review each block, right? So if you spend less time reviewing each block, you could theoretically cut down the time you're spending with one pass, and you could split your revision into 2 passes. Personally, it's always worked out well for me to do each question once, but really well, and make sure that I don't forget that information by supplementing it with Anki. So you don't need to do multiple passes, and I wouldn't recommend it.
Now coming to Amboss, as you mentioned that the Amboss library is an amazing resource to supplement your preparation. But what is your opinion about Amboss as a complete platform? I mean, the question bank as well as the library, and how does it compare with UWorld?
Right. So Amboss is a great resource, I think, but in and of it itself, I don't think it's sufficient for your step 2 prep. Firstly, I didn't use a lot of Amboss's question bank, but from what I've heard from other people and from the free trial that they give, a lot of questions are really quite complex. Honestly, UWorld is easier, and even the step 2 exam itself is easier as compared to some of the questions on Amboss. So I would say it's like unnecessarily tough on Amboss. The other thing I would say that with an existing question bank that has 4,000 questions, do you really need another set of questions from Amboss? Um, See, with UWorld, it's something that you need to do in any case. The step 2 exam questions match UWorld most closely. So best spend your time with that resource. Amboss is great, but I'd say it's optional.
What assessment tools did you find most useful during the preparation? There must have been UWorld, but what other assessment tools did you use?
Well, I wish I could give you a different answer, but it was just UWorld. I hope it's helpful. That is just one resource for step 2, but honestly, just doing UWorld in and of itself is enough. Yeah.
And did you also do any NBMEs or any other tests?
Right. So I gave one NBME just to be sure that I was scoring well enough, as much as I wanted. So this was about 2 weeks before my actual exam. I gave one NBME 11. So I purchased that one. I also gave something called a free 120. It's a set of questions that's available on the official site. So that was also just to get an idea where I stand as compared to the actual exam. And of course, UWorld has its own simulations, UWorld forms, I believe they're called. So yeah, all of them. And they all predicted my score pretty well, I'd say. So I got 269 to 274 on all of these tests. And my actual score was 273. So they're great predictors.
All right, so mostly the answer is UWorld, UWorld, and
UWorld,
UWorld.
yes.
So now coming to exam day, since it's a very long exam spanning over 9 hours, good time management strategy is very, very important. So what was your time management strategy on test day?
Right. So I would say this for step 1, step 2, or even step 3. You get an optional break of for 45 minutes, which you can extend by 15 minutes if you watch the tutorial at home. So you have 1 hour of break time. Use it. After every block, I took a break. I took 5 minutes to just roam around the test center, get a glass of water, use the restroom, anything just to move around a bit, get blood flowing again. So definitely use each and every break time that you get. With step 2, I just feel that the questions can sometimes be very surprising, things that you've never seen before, seeing first time on your exam. That's very common. It's seen with everyone. So don't let those questions shake your confidence. Once you finish a block, just forget about that block, move on to the next one. You will see weird questions. I saw plenty of weird questions. Don't let them affect your composure.
Okay. So how was the day before the exam? Did you relax or did you study the day before?
Yeah, so I remember from my step 1, I had nightmares the day before my exam. I couldn't sleep well. So with step 2, I made sure I was sleepy enough the day before. So I exercised a lot. I studied a lot as well, because that does make me sleepy. Did everything to ensure that I felt sleepy enough by the end of the day. And I had to wake up at 5:30 a.m. to catch a cab to get to Gurgaon and all of that stuff. So yeah, so make sure everything is ready for the day and for tomorrow, so that you're in a very lax state of mind on the day of your exam. Yeah.
So, as you mentioned about using your breaks judiciously, how did you plan your breaks?
Anything particularly specific during those breaks? I just made sure that I finished a block and then went for a break. I didn't do two blocks in continuation. During breaks, I looked out of the window, I walked around, I ate a little. I wouldn't recommend reading during breaks. That doesn't help with your stress levels, and it's unlikely that you're going to find something out of those questions. So yeah, so just relax. Yeah, empty your mind of that block.
So you took a break after each block. You didn't do two blocks sometimes.
Correct.
Okay. Another thing about step 2 that is talked about a lot is that it has very long question stems. So what was your strategy to tackle those long question stems efficiently?
Yes, I'm glad you brought that up. So step 2 definitely differs from step 1 as well as from NEET PG in having really long question stems, and you need to find out what information to exclude. There is a lot of superfluous information, but there are lots of hidden clues that you need to learn how to pick up. I don't have a particular strategy except practice. That's why it's important to go through Uworld, the entirety of it, so that you're familiar with each and every type of question. With practice, you get to the end of question stems faster. You know what the question is going to ask. And in the beginning, I would just say, take your time and try to get a gist of what the question is. Sometimes you're forming a diagnosis and you realize that they've already given you the diagnosis in the middle of the question. So you need to skim through the initial part and get to the end faster as compared to step 1 or Indian PG prep exams.
Okay. And ma'am, how long are the question stems as compared to step 1?
I'd say maybe 1.5 times as long as step 1. So yes, and the thing is that with step 1, there were several questions that were quite straightforward. In between these long questions, you would get easier questions, quite straightforward. You don't see that with step 2. I'd say every question is quite long and you have to give every question a lot of time. Yeah.
Finally, how much time after the test day do we usually get the result?
Well, it's 3 weeks, and on the third Wednesday, I'd say, to be exact. So if you gave your exam on a Thursday, it would be like on the third Wednesday that you would get your results. So yeah, 3 weeks.
Okay. So as we are coming to an end, what would be the parting advice for USMLE Step 2 CK aspirants that you'd like to give?
My parting advice is that this was my story. People have done step 2 preparation in very, very different ways. And there's no one secret to success. It's just you finding what works best for you, taking tips from different people and combining it together. These were just some of my recommendations, things that I thought were useful, but don't think that the way that you study is wrong simply on the basis of my tips. Try out different things and find what works for you.
So with this, we will give a pause to our discussion with the hope that we will soon meet again with some other relevant topic. I'd like to thank Dr. Toshali Pandey for sparing her valuable time. And I'm sure this must have been very helpful for all future aspirants, that the tips that she provided. Thank you, ma'am.
I hope so too. I hope this was helpful. And thank you so much, Urvish, for having these sessions. I'm sure your batchmates are going to love you. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.